What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
We are here. We are ready. And we are getting ready to tell you a story about something that nobody fucking wants to hear, but I did the research and we have to do it. Yay. But first, breaking news. Breaking news. Tanner Horner, which is the one who killed the little 7-year-old Athena, the FedEx driver guy, he has been sentenced to death. But we all know that's probably not going to be the end of it, because I know I was watching the sentencing, and when he was given the sentence, the judge said to him, "You have the right to appeal. Do you want an appeals attorney?" He said yes. Then his defense attorneys also said that they're going to be remaining on the case to get him into the appeals courts. So this means that he can appeal. I don't know about the state of Texas, but I know typically most places have a certain number of appeals that you can do. So he'll probably exhaust those at some point. However, Sierra and I both have talked about, we wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't make it to his death sentence.
He'll have an early one.
That's what I'm thinking, because he's in one of the worst jails that you could be in. Now, he's probably in protective custody as of right now. But if anybody knows anything about Jeffrey Dahmer, then you would know that Jeffrey Dahmer was in a facility and he was like a fucking star when he went in there. Everybody knew who Jeffrey Dahmer was. He was all over the news. And he was pretty well protected, at least in his brain. But you see, there were people who didn't like him. And he was put into a weight room to clean. That was part of his job. One of the guys that he was cleaning with basically had a deal with the guard that the guard was going to leave him alone in there for a little while so that he could attack Jeffrey Dahmer. And Jeffrey Dahmer died because the guards turned a blind eye to the fact that they literally took dumbbells and beat the shit out of him to death. So based on the type of crimes that Tanner Horner did, I'm not condoning. I'm just saying I could see the similar fate happening, because people who kill children and people who molest children typically have to be put in a completely different unit of a prison because of how dangerous it is for them. And this is Texas we're talking about. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but his sentence was death. And to be honest, it's deserved. I'm not normally, normally I don't care here nor there with the death penalty, but for him, it's deserved. When you kill children, there's no reforming you from that. There's nothing you can do to this man to reform him. And really, if your whole life was to kill a child, like your whole goal was to kill a child, I don't think there's any room for you on this earth anyways. So I felt like it was a deserved sentence, and I'm hoping that he makes it to his sentence, but I'm hoping it doesn't take a long time, because I think it's deserved. And I think he's afraid. So we are not talking about Tanner Horner today, but we are actually talking about children being murdered, unfortunately. So nobody wants to hear this story, but it is a story that needs to be told, of course. And this one's interesting. The thought process in it is interesting. I'll reserve my personal thoughts for the end, but we'll just get right into it. So just a real quick trigger warning. I do not go into major detail, but this case that we're talking about does have to do with the murder of 2 children. So just know that if you don't want to hear about the murder of children, just skip this episode. And next week, I actually know what we're doing next week, and I'm pretty sure the next week doesn't have anything to do with children, but I don't fucking know. I can't promise. So we'll catch you next week if you don't want to hear about this specific case. So what are we talking about this week? We are going to be talking about the year 1994 in South Carolina. Michael and Alexander Smith are murdered. Their mother, Susan Smith, is the perpetrator, and she is held accountable. Susan was born September 26, 1971. Now, not a lot is known about her childhood. What is known is that her father died by suicide when she was 6 years old, and Susan herself had attempted suicide at the age of 13. Her mother actually ends up remarrying a little later on in life, and she marries a man named Beverly Russell Jr.
Wow.
And listen, I'm going to make fun of his name. I'm making fun of his name. I've never heard of a Beverly as a man.
As a dude.
Okay. So I am going to laugh about this for a minute, and you will understand why in a hot minute. Now, it does come out later, much later in Susan's life, that he admits to molesting Susan when she was a teenager. So Bev, little Miss Bevy, I feel like it's appropriate because you fucking molested your teenage stepdaughter. So, okay. And so he was a local businessman. He was kind of in a higher position within like a church, and he was in a higher position in politics too. And so it just fits the bill. Now, both Beverly and Susan also later admitted that they continued to have a sexual relationship all the way up until 6 months before Susan murdered her children. Now, I know what you're thinking, Sierra, because she's looking at me with the big eyes. That's not a shock. It's not a shock to me because he groomed her, right? So he groomed her and molested her from the age of like 13, 14, whatever, like young teenage years. And then there comes a point where that grooming can mentally make it to where it turns into a relationship. Okay, so it's very much like the way that I feel about it is we're seeing a lot of this now where people are coming out and they're talking about these kind of things. And so I know that it seems strange. That this woman was molested by her stepfather and then turned into having a sexual relationship with him. But this is why grooming is such a problem, because when you are groomed, I mean, if you're in high school, I'll be honest, this was one of my fears with Sierra in high school, because in her high school specifically, there were quite a few teachers that were very friendly with the kids because they were just trying to be friends. But I worked in the same school district as they did, and there was a very strict policy of you don't share social media, you don't have personal phone numbers, you don't this, that, the other students. Sierra in particular had a teacher that had her phone number and would text her. And he is, to this day, in my opinion, a very flirtatious individual with students. And he was not the only one that I saw. And so I would watch that and be like, ooh, he kind of strikes me as kind of funky. And it's not because necessarily anything other than he's a teacher, they're students. Even if you're an 18-year-old senior, it is not appropriate, nor is it okay to be in a relationship with somebody older than you. However, grooming happens. And when you groom people, or when somebody is groomed, you take away the whole point of grooming is to take away their fear. And so with Demi Lovato, she was 18 years old. So she's an adult legally, but she dated a 30-year-old man when she was 18 years old, and she dated Wilmer Valderrama. I think that's how you say his name. And they were together for literally 6 years. Well, she has come out now and talked about how that relationship was not okay because she was only 18. So the same scenarios with this is she was groomed from a younger teenage years by this man who groomed her to basically think that it was okay what he was doing to her, because he's not her biological father, right? So in her mind, he's not her biological father. He's her stepfather. He's her mom's husband. But at the same time, he's still a father figure, and he was much older than her, and it should have never happened. But by the time she got to be an adult, it became more of, I guess, accepted in her brain. Because again, I'm not blaming Susan. This is how it works. So I know it sounds strange to think that they continued a sexual relationship, but that does happen a lot, actually. Well, not a lot. It's not a lot, but it does happen to where people, they will do that. It's like they start out, and it doesn't matter if it's a stepfather or somebody that they meet. If two people that have a very big age difference, one person is grooming the other, there is a likelihood that it will go from being something that would be deemed inappropriate to that person feeling like it's not inappropriate. At the end of the day, it's inappropriate all the way around. So I'm just going to. And by the way, she was a full-fledged fucking 22-year-old adult before she went to jail. So yes, legality age-wise, sure. He's still her stepfather. So, that's fucking gross. If anything, weird and gross. So anyways, that's why Mrs. whatever, Bevy, I don't care what your fucking name is. I don't care what your name is, bruh, because you sound like a shit stain. So Susan graduates high school in 1989. And she seems to have had multiple different types of affairs with multiple types of men. One in particular was a married man that she was, doing the thing with. And that person wanted to end the relationship with her. So she then attempts suicide at that point for a second time. So again, this is a not high school. She's out of high school. So this is a young teenage, young adult, I guess we'll say. And she's dating in some very different relationships, different types of affairs, finding married men. These to me are all the things that when I see that, I'm like, I think something might have happened to that person when they were younger, because that's not your norm. But it would make sense because her stepfather was molesting her. Now, she does eventually meet a man named David Smith, and they do get married. They do have 2 children. They have Michael and Alexander. Now, I did see some reports that in 1994, Susan actually had filed divorce from David. So clearly things were not working out between them, but they were in the process of getting divorced. Now, on October 25th, 1994, Susan reports to the police that she has been carjacked. She tells them that a black man took her 1990 Mazda Protege and her 2 sons were still inside the vehicle. These were 3-year-old Michael and 1-year-old Alexander. Now, for 9 days, she literally goes on TV. She makes pleas for the safe return of her children. In one of the appearances, she actually says, and I quote, You guys have got to be strong. I just feel it in my heart that you're okay, but you got to take care of each other." That to me would have been my first clue that something wasn't right, because you're talking to a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. That's not how you talk to a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Right.
Now, her husband, David, was all in this as well. Even though they were having problems.
Well, it's your kids.
Exactly. He looked past the divorce, the separation and all that stuff. And the 2 of them shared a united front. He went on all of the same TV appearances and made the same TV pleas as his wife did. And he actually said in one point, "If the person who had mine and my wife's children could see this, we come to you and we beg that you please do not hurt our children. Just find compassion. Find it somewhere in your heart to let them return home safely and don't hurt them. You can take the car, whatever you want, just don't hurt our children." So even he is standing on these TV platforms begging for this carjacker to just please, drop the kids off at a fire station, drop the kids off at a police station, leave them at a grocery store, take the car and run. We don't give a shit about you. We just want our kids back. So the police obviously are going to investigate this, because this is now 9 days in and they're looking at this like, this is really strange, because we're trying to find this person who took this car with these 2 children in it. They also had the community completely rallied around this couple. They literally had volunteers that would search for the car. They had volunteers that were searching for the boys with the police officers. They even had people from all over the United States offering their services to help find the boys. This was national fucking news. And as the police dig deeper into their investigation, they start to find things a little weird. And they start to find a few inconsistencies in Susan's story. So first, they are finding it really hard to believe that this car and the boys just literally vanished. We're talking 9 days have gone by. Nobody has seen this Mazda Protege. The whole fucking nation, the whole entire United States knows what has happened. Okay. They know that these boys are somewhere in this car. So that car is everywhere. The make, the model, the license plate is everywhere. So the fact that not one person has ever reported seeing it, that's strange. Never mind the fact it's been 9 days. If you're a carjacker, do you keep a car for 9 days?
Right.
No. And especially if you're that carjacker and you're fucking those people are all over the news talking about the car. What are you doing? You're literally going to ditch the car off the side of the road and say fucking peace out. Whether you take the kids or not, that's on you. But you're
put it in a lake.
you're not going to keep driving around in it. But you're also going to ditch it. So you would think that they would have found at least the vehicle by this point.
Something.
Right. So they're already, that's a little weird. They also discover that the intersection where she said that the carjacking happened at, that specific intersection, was not possible. Could not have actually happened where she said it happened. They were saying that this specific intersection, there's no way her version of events could have happened the way she said. Because her claim was that she pulled up to this intersection and that the light was green on her. The light was red on her end. So she stopped. She pulled up and stopped. And she said that when she pulled up and stopped, this black man came to the car, pulled her out of the car, took off in her car. She said that in this intersection, it was completely empty. There was nobody there, which is why nobody had witnessed this. Okay. The problem is, the lights at that specific intersection, they don't change unless a car were to have pulled up to the light to change it. So she was going on the main thoroughway. That light does not change unless a car pulls up to the side to go, then it will change to let that car go. That is the only way that light would have turned red. So the reason that it was suspicious is because she said nobody was around. She said there were no other cars around. It was a completely empty intersection. Nobody could have witnessed it. But then the light wouldn't have been red. So that's their problem, is that doesn't equate. That doesn't make sense. They also discover that she had told the police that night she had been visiting a friend during the day, but she was headed home, right? From this friend's house. She had been with this friend. She was headed home. However, when they contact the friend, they find out, the friend wasn't actually home during the time she said she was there. So now they're like, okay, something's not quite right. They also did give Susan a lie detector test, and they had even asked her during her lie detector test if she knew where the boys were, to which she had trouble giving an answer to that question. She did not answer, like right there.
She kind of did one of those beat around the bush answers.
Which is like, hello, you're on a lie detector. Yes or no? Yes or no? And really, do you know where they are? Yes or no? It's weird. Why would you even think that there was any other answer? So either yes, you do, or no, you don't. So they were kind of like, okay. And by the way, that lie detector test happened on day 2 after she reported. So after she reported that this man had carjacked her, they gave her the lie detector test on day 2 because they were already fucking suspicious. They were already suspicious of her. They were suspicious of the things she was claiming. They knew that the intersection, that couldn't have happened, but they don't have proof of anything. So they're just I think they were honestly just trying to build up their case. Now, on November 3rd, 1994, investigators go to Susan, and they basically confront her with what they have been thinking. And they basically look at her and say, listen, Susan, we don't think that what happened the way you said. We don't think there was a carjacker. We don't think that somebody took your car. We don't think any of that. We think you had something to do with this. We think you know where your boys are. And we think that this is literally 100% you. And here's why. And they list it out. Because of the intersection, because of the lie detector, all these things. It is then that she says, okay, I killed Michael and Alexander. She tells them. She then tells the police that what she did was she kept her kids strapped in her car. Then she rolled the car into John D. Long Lake with her boys strapped inside, literally drowning them. And this lake is a little over 5 miles from her home. Sorry, that should just put a lump in my throat and give me chills. And I did the fucking research on this. I already knew this was coming. Now, David actually in an interview did say that he remembered what it was like when she admitted to it. And he said, and I quote, he said, she just casually, like you and I sitting here, said, I'm sorry. And that was about as far as it went. He said, I asked her, why did you do this? Why? And she said, I don't know why, but I'm sorry. Now, police had actually already searched the nearby lake as one of the places for the car because, again, they had never believed that Susan was telling the whole truth. So they were just trying to find this car. However, when they searched that lake, they only searched about 30 feet offshore because they felt that this car, especially if there really was a carjacker, you're not shoving the car far in there. You're just going to like leave it on the edge and move on. So they only went about 30 feet offshore and didn't find any remnants of a car or anything like that. So the police go back because that's where she says that she had put the boys, and they go in and they have divers that go in, and they do end up finding the car. And this car is 122 feet from the shore, which is so weird. And inside they find the two boys' bodies strapped into their seats. Now, Susan is arrested and she is charged for the murder of her two boys. She is 23 years old at this point. Now, in her own handwritten confession, she stated that she was in love with someone very much. However, the feelings were not reciprocated, so she had decided to end her life and her son's lives because she didn't want them to grow up without a mom. That's what she tells them. So she said her original plan was to kill herself and her sons. So her trial starts in 1995. Now, her lawyers argued that she had suffered from severe depression and was deeply troubled. They also put a huge emphasis on her childhood sexual abuse. Full stop. Full stop right now. This is the prime reason why I say we do not use mental health as an excuse for bad behavior. Because having severe depression, being deeply troubled, suffering from sexual abuse as a minor does not ever in a fucking million years give you the right to kill your children. Especially horrifically drowning them in a fucking car. There is no fucking way. Now, the defense also brings in a psychiatrist. Now, the psychiatrist diagnosed her with a major depressive disorder and dependent personality disorder. Now, for those of you who don't understand, a major depressive disorder, yes, I could see a major depressive disorder maybe causing her to feel these ways. I could. But dependent personality disorder has nothing to fucking do with that. Dependent personality disorder is when somebody needs to be around people. They are like heavily attached to people. So that, first of all, bringing that up in court makes no fucking sense. I feel like when they brought it up in court, it was literally to try to make the jury feel like, well, look, she's diagnosed with mental health issues, so therefore we should go easy on her. That's what I feel like it was for. Now, as far as the major depressive disorder, I would consider buying that she killed her children because she had a major depressive disorder if she didn't lie about it for 9 fucking days and didn't pretend, right, and didn't pretend like a fucking carjacker, a black man of all things, carjacked her and took her car and her children. She hid the crime. If she was suffering from major depressive disorder enough to kill her children, she would not have given a fuck. She would not have given a fuck. And
well, but again, she said
she wanted to kill herself supposedly.
So why the fuck is she still alive?
Right. So these are the things that when her defense says that, I'm like, yeah, okay, but I can poke holes into your fucking shit. I'm not saying she doesn't have depression. That's not what I'm saying. She probably does have depression. For sure. She totally could have depression. But you cannot tell me that she's suffering from major depressive disorder and then lying about where her children are. And what gets me the most is for her to go out in public and be like, I feel in my heart that you guys are okay. Bitch, you knew they were dead. Chris Watts, you knew what the fuck? You knew. So they had actually so her defense attorneys actually answered what you had said. Why didn't she kill herself? So they said that basically she had driven to the lake to end her life and her boy's life because she didn't want them to live without their mother. Okay, I could see that being, for reals, a depressive disorder outcome. I could see it. Kill yourself and your children so that you guys are all in a better place. I could see that. But they said, she was unable to kill herself. She couldn't even stay in the car long enough her body basically willed her to get out of the car. Then she wasn't suffering from fucking major depressive disorder. Then she wasn't because she would have fucking saved her children. She would have saved her children. And you know what? I'm gonna bet here because nobody knows, but I'm willing to bet she was never even in the car.
I was just gonna say
I don't think she rode the car in.
Pushed the car.
Yeah,
in.
I don't think she rode the car into the fucking lake and then got out because that's really hard to get out of a car that is incoming water. That's been proven a million times. No, I think she got there, shut the door, shoved the car in the lake. or put a fucking rock on the gas pedal. I don't know, but she most definitely was not in the car and was like, I can't do this. She was not. So she sent her children to die. I don't feel bad for her at all. Can you tell? I have zero fucks about this lady. Now, the prosecution. Now, the prosecution basically says, no. You guys don't get it twisted. She might have dependent personality disorder. She might even have major depressive disorder. She could. However, she killed her sons because she was trying to start a new life with a man. They tell the jury that there was a man that she was in love with. Remember how she even wrote in her thing like, oh, it's not reciprocated? Here's why. She was in love with a man. They had started a relationship. They ended the relationship because he ended the relationship with her because he did not want kids. He did not want kids. He literally said and told her, I can't be with you because I have no desire to have children and you have 2 boys. I'm not going to be a stepfather. I don't want kids. So the prosecution is like, no, she didn't kill them because she was depressed. She killed them because they were stopping her for being with who she quoted was the love of her life. Now, it took the jury 2.5 hours to talk about her being guilty or not guilty, and they find her guilty of the murder of both of her boys. Then the prosecutors come out and they push for the death penalty. They're like, okay, you guys found her guilty, so now we're moving on to the sentencing phase. We actually think that she should be put to death for this because she premeditated this murder of her children. Even David Smith, her ex-husband, said, I hope she gets the death penalty. However, the jury does end up giving her 2 concurrent life sentences. Now, here's the thing about concurrent life sentences if you don't know. When you get 2 life sentences to be served concurrently, it means you serve them at the same time. Not back to back. The same fucking time. And I don't understand that. You killed 2 children. So a life sentence is typically, because she's got life sentence with parole. Why the fuck we're giving her parole, I don't know. But with parole, okay? So typically 25 to 30 years is what you're looking at, right? Before you can start to look at parole. So I'm going, well, together, she basically has to serve 30 years and then she can start applying for parole. But see, if you make her serve them consecutively back to back, now she's got 60 years before she can apply for parole. That's personally what I think she should have had, but that's not what they did. So she has the eligibility to be paroled in 30 years from her sentence. She is incarcerated in the Camille Griffin Graham Correctional Institution. Now, David said, I would like for Susan to sit in prison for the rest of her life and have to think about the selfish act that she did. But under South Carolina law, that's not an option. She would only go to prison for 20 or 30 years, and that's not enough. I feel that she does not deserve another chance in society. She gave up that right. I totally agree with him. Now, in the year 2000, Susan had been involved in a sexual encounter with one of the prison guards. She then has another sexual encounter with another one of the prison guards. Both men are charged with, because it is a crime, because again, it's authority figures. They're all of age, but they are authority figures. A prison guard cannot have a sexual relationship with a prisoner because they are the fucking authority figure. Like, that's so wrong. So they both were charged with crimes and they both lost their jobs, so that everybody knows. Because a lot of times it's a slap on the wrist for the fucking corrections officers.
Hello, orange is the new black.
Right? I thought of that. And then literally I was like, Dea, what's her name? Dea? Is that
yeah.
Like Dea and her baby? Okay, that's what I'm saying. Now, after this happens, though, she also gets in trouble for this, right? And she is moved to Leith Correctional Institute. And her prison record also shows that she had received sanctions for drugs and mutilation charges too. So we're not talking about this woman who's like a fucking stand-up prisoner. Okay, we're talking about a lady who killed her children, goes into prison, sleeps with a couple of guards, probably for favors, to be fair, probably because that can be the reason, and then gets moved and then has sanctions for drug use and fucking mutilation charges. Like, you're not doing yourself any favors, ma'am. Now, in 2015, she actually writes a letter to a South Carolina newspaper. And in this, she claims that she was not in her right mind that night. She specifically says, and I quote, "Something went very, very wrong that night." You fucking think? "I was not myself. I was a good mother." No, you weren't. "And I loved my boys." No, you didn't. "There was no motive as it was not even a planned event." Yes, it was. "I was not in my right mind." No shit. "I am not the monster society thinks I am." Yes, you are. Like, I can rebuttal every single piece of your fucking letter, ma'am. Because here's why. Let me just go into it real quick. "I was not myself." Yeah, we know. You literally killed 2 children. "Something went very wrong that night." Again, 2 children died at your fucking hands. "I was a good mother." No, you weren't, because if you were, you would have never strapped him in the car and pushed the car into the fucking lake. "And I loved my boys." Again, no, you didn't, because if you did, you would not have killed them. "There was no motive as it was not even planned event." Yes, the fuck it was, because even your attorney said you planned on killing yourself and your children that night. So yes, the fuck it was. "I was not in my right mind." Again, obviously, "I am not the monster society thinks I am." You're a monster if you kill your children. You're a monster if you kill children. So no, you're wrong on every part of that, you liar. So now in August of 2024, she is charged again. Okay, so here we are. Now we're in 2020. She is charged again with a communication. So her charge is communication with a victim or witness. And the crime that she did actually was she was speaking to a documentary filmmaker. Okay, she got charged with this because it is against prison rules. They're not allowed to do that. And she did it anyways. Yeah, see, Sierra's over there shaking her fucking head because
Alcatraz her ass.
I'm saying she's not listening, right? Now in November of 2024, she has her first parole hearing. She applies for parole. She reportedly cried, and she said, and I quote, "I know that what I did was horrible. I'm sorry that I put them through that. I wish I could take that back. I really do. I was just scared." Okay, so now you're saying you were scared. Before you said it wasn't planned. You also said that it was because you were going to kill yourself. Like, ma'am, your story has changed a lot now because you've had time to think, I guess. Now, David was at the parole hearing, and he asked the parole board that she does not get parole. He told the parole board that 30 years is just not enough for killing his sons. I agree. He said, and I quote, "I am here to advocate on Michael and Alex's behalf, or as their father. God gives us free choice, and she made free choice that night to end their life. This wasn't a tragic mistake. She purposely meant to end their lives." Correct. Now, Susan was officially denied parole. She was denied. It was stated too, so here we go. It was stated that after she was denied parole, she became a complete asshole in jail. Complete asshole in jail. Some of the officers who had dealt with her said that, like, for the year prior to her parole hearing, she was helpful, she was nice, she was really great, like model prisoner. And as soon as she got told that she was denied, they said, dude, she became such a fucking asshole. Like, none of us can stand being around her. She's mean, she's disrespectful, she's rude, she's a fucking bitch. So they said, the officer said, I'm pretty sure at this point, that whole like nice bit was a fucking ruse to try to prove that she'd changed so she could get out of jail. You think? I think you're correct. Here's how we feel about this. There were 471 letters written to the parole board about the release of Susan. 471 people, which that means like family members, police officers,
anybody who probably helped with that case,
or even a person who studies it, right? Even psychologists, or even like myself, knowing the case, like, let me tell you the reasons why I don't think she should be paroled, right? So 471 people wrote the parole board before her parole to talk to them or to tell them their opinion. 6 of them were in support of her release out of 471. So I agree with you. I'm kind of like, I think it's because people are the 6. My guess would be the 6 would be either family members or people who think that she did this because she was suffering from like postpartum depression type stuff.
Or people who don't know what the fuck some of the mental health
Correct.
disorders are that she got
people who think
diagnosed
that
with.
People think that the mental health stuff and all these things.
Children killers.
Fair enough. That's probably accurate. Now, she is allowed to have another parole hearing, and that is scheduled for November of this year. Now, if she gets denied in that one, She is going to be able to apply for parole every 2 years until she either dies or gets out. Now, David himself said he will be at every single one of her paroles, every one of her parole hearings, because he wants to ensure that his son's deaths are not in vain. And he said, and I quote, "I would just tell her that you have no idea of how much damage you have done to so many people." He said, "I would tell her that in my capabilities, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you stay behind bars." Good on you, David.
As she should.
And by the way, David went on, got married, and had 2 more children. And he said, while he will never forget what she did, he had to forgive because it was going to eat him alive. But he will go down fighting to make sure she never gets out of jail. And I agree with him. In this scenario, normally I can't excuse mental health, but I can normally say, oh, that explains why she did it. I don't find that in this case. I don't find an explanation. Major depressive disorder, I can't even use that as an explanation because she hid it. And she hid it, and you should see the pictures of her. Like, there are times when she looks like she's like fake ass crying. Like, you could just completely see, looking back, like obviously knowing the truth, you can actually look back and go, okay, yeah, you didn't even look like you were serious about it. But to me, this is no different than like the Chris Watts situation. If you kill your children because you're depressed, you're not going to hide it. You're not going to lie about it. You're going to accept the consequences and move on, or you're going to do something irrational. I can compare her right now if you really want to know, because we'll talk about her another time, but there was a woman in 2001 named Andrea Yates who drowned her 5 children. Okay, she drowned them. Do you want to know why she drowned them? Because she was suffering from postpartum psychosis, not depression, psychosis. And guess what she did after she drowned her children? She called the cops and told them she killed her children. She didn't hide it. She didn't lie about it because she was her brain was so fucked up. She knew in the moment what she was doing, like she was in a psychotic state. That is where I could say, oh, I could see how this may have caused that. But she didn't fucking hide it and she didn't lie. This woman killed her children and then lied about it and actually continued to lie about it and pretend in public. I cannot find any sort of explanation in what you're trying to tell me, what you're trying to say, what her people are trying to say. I can't find the explanation because there is no explanation for killing your children and saying, well, she was sexually abused as a child and, you know, she has dependent personality disorder and she suffers from major depressive disorder. None of those things excuse or explain why she lied about it for 9 days to the police, which, by the way, she would have continued to lie about it if the police wouldn't have confronted her about it. So no, that is cold-blooded killer shit. You lie about it because you want to get away with it. So my hope is, I'm right there with David. My hope is she never gets out again because, I mean, you figure 30 years. So you figure she's 55 years old right now. She still has a whole ass life that she could live if she gets out of jail now. Like,
unfortunately.
Yeah, like a whole ass life. And it's like one of those things where I don't think she deserves it. She killed her 2 children. And I can speak from experience. I am a mother of 2 children. And don't get this shit twisted. Like, at times you want to fucking pop your children because they drive you crazy, but you don't actually do it. And again, this is not, in my opinion, this is not a scenario where she was suffering from some sort of psychotic episode that made her think her children needed to die. Her version of events and her prosecutor's versions of events also differed. She says there's no plan. Her prosecutors are like, no, she planned to kill herself. Well, then was there a plan or was there not? Like, I think she is very good at trying to twist it so that she looks like the victim so that she can get out. I think that she was young when she did this. She was young. She was 23 years old. I think she was young. She was going through divorce. I think she was suffering from that kind of stuff. I genuinely do believe that there is a very good chance that she killed these kids because the guy she wanted to be with didn't want kids.
Right.
And do you want to know something crazy, Susan? Really, truly, Susan, I really hope you understand that, you know, the craziest thing is if that was the case, you just had to give your husband full custody and give up parental rights.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy wouldn't have ever had to deal with your children because you
Especially
wouldn't have had him.
y'all were getting divorced
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah. You could have totally, that was an option. And that's the other reason I can't, there's no part of me that can justify anything. I can't explain it away like I can a lot of the times. I'm normally pretty good at going, well, if they have mental health issues, I can't do that with her because there were far too many options. Far too many options. By the way, this is so off subject, but I feel the same way about Gypsy Rose.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she had far too many options to get safely out of that house, and she chose not to. So I feel the same way about her that I do about Susan Smith. So that was the story of Susan Smith.
Susan's a bitch.
She sucks, man. She totally sucks. Like, ew. So if you like the things that you hear, if you like hearing us talk about true crime related things and sometimes spooky things, make sure you're following us on whatever platform you're listening to. And if you are following us and you really dig us and you think you know somebody who might like to listen to us, please share. We appreciate all the support and the love. There's nothing else we can ask for other than what y'all are doing because it makes me feel good. You guys, at least some of you just really like us, and I just think it's great. It makes my heart happy. So other than that, I don't really have much else to say other than thank you so much for listening to us tell you the story about Susan Smith, the woman who purposely drowned her children. We're going to say for a man, but I'm not really sure if that's true. Until next week. Catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.